Welcome to the Total Soccer Show and USMNT Weekly. It's our regular check-in on the men's national team. And on this episode, we're talking about Weston McKennie's new contract at Juventus, Noahkai Bank's potentially deflecting to Germany, and much, 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 much more. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, hello, Taylor Rockwell. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Ryan. I know exactly what you meant, but I am now obsessed with the idea of Noahkai Bank's having a bad performance and deflecting the bad performance by saying I might play for Germany just out of nowhere, and that's how the story comes about.
Have I used the right word?
I think you said deflecting instead of defecting, but either way, it works.
He was trying to get to the US, but he bounced off Ireland and ended up back in Germany.
Exactly.
Well,
it's a physical deflection. It's a problem.
Unfortunately, the editing machine at TSS is still broken, so we're going to leave that one in and say hello to Graham Ruthven. How are you?
I'm good, Ryan Bailey. 99 days until the start of the World Cup, and 100 days until the USA's opener against Paraguay. Are we excited? Does that make us excited or very, very nervous? I think it's a mix of both for me.
I was reading Henry Bushnell on The Athletic saying that game hasn't sold out yet because the Category 1 tickets are like $1 billion each. So
the US opener in LA,
Paraguay
against
one.
Paraguay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great ticketing strategy that FIFA's got there. It's really, everyone is delighted about it.
Yeah, it is. They are indeed. Joe Lowery, how are you? It's up to you to buy those Category 1 tickets and fill that stadium.
I will make the sacrifice. I'm just going to need a small loan of $1 bajillion in order to make that happen. I don't know exactly the piece you're referencing, but I saw Henry, who's doing great work, post about how FIFA, I think it was, said that all the games were sold out, and then fans sent a bunch of screenshots of the ticketing platform, and we're like, no, that's not even a little true. So we'll see. I am stoked for this, and I get more and more excited as some USMNT players are doing good things. It makes me feel hope when I shouldn't, and that's kind of right where I want to be.
Yeah, I hope the parking's sold out because that's all very good value.
Yeah, who doesn't want to park 2 miles from a stadium and have to figure out how to get there? I mean, that's just electric.
For $500,
right?
Or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's all going to be great. 100 days away, or 99 days from the start, as Graham noted. Wonderful stuff. Plenty to talk about in those 100 days or so, so stick with USMNT Weekly. That's not going to be the length of this episode, by the way, just so you know. But, we'll do 45 minutes or so.
It's a marathon. We're not stopping until... We didn't tell anyone. It's not sponsored or anything. We just decided to do it for a laugh. So, yeah.
This episode's on Twitch for the next 100 days, so stick with us for that one. And also visit patreon.com/Total Soccer Show for our bonus content, bonus episodes, bonus video, and access to our Discord server where all the cool kids are hanging out. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show, where you can also join the TSS Scouting Network. Later on in this episode, we'll read out some scouting reports that you, dear Scout listeners, have sent in to us. You can get a player to scout for yourself at TSS Scouting Network, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. Let's get to USMNT Weekly, though. Hey, Joe, it's a tradition around these parts to kick off these episodes with the American players who stood out over the most recent round of games. Would you like to nominate a player, Joe?
I very much would, and it's a player we're going to talk about in segment 2 because he was just that good that I think he warrants it. It's the man who came up in the intro already, the bouncer himself. It is Noahkai Banks. He started and played 90 minutes and had an assist for Augsburg in a 2-0 win over Köln. He played as a right-sided center back, Banks, in a back three. He's done that and played on the left side of a back three basically throughout this whole season. Augsburg have not been using a back four, and he's not played as the central center back in that three. So he is very much, at the moment, an outside center back. Plays on the side of his dominant right foot. He has some really nice moments in this game. He's got a headed shot that comes off of a corner kick. It's not a good headed shot, but the dude is tall, and I do think there's a set-piece upside there, so that's something to monitor later on. He's got a dangerous cross after arriving in the box when he's sort of inched higher up the field in the first half. He had a really nice left-footed, so he is right-footed, but his left foot is still very, very good. That's partly why he's been able to play so well on the left for big chunks of this year. He plays a left-footed through ball. He just kind of chops at the ball and like, I don't know, sprays it in behind. And it's a little bit overhit, but it is so good. This technique on this left-footed ball is just delightful. And then he has another couple of like really nice right-footed distributions. His assist, though, is a really impressive moment. And I think it is a moment that sums up Noahkai Banks' attacking game quite well. I have something to say on the defensive end in just a second. But his assist is him driving forward all the way to the end line from the right center back spot. Again, center back, driving all the way to the end line and playing a perfect cutback for a teammate to finish at the near post. It is Banks looking like the quintessential modern center back, where these players are much more well-rounded now than they were a decade ago and more than they were 2 decades ago by a country mile. These guys able to do so much in possession, and Banks can do so many things with the ball. We saw it right foot, left foot, dribbling forward, breaking lines with his passing. He is really, really effective in possession, and this was one of his best moments ever so far as a young player. Now, Banks is not a perfect player, right? And maybe there's a reason why this whole Germany swirl hadn't happened sooner, is because, he does still have some holes in his game. And maybe the thing that I saw that needs to improve from him most, and I've highlighted this before, is his defensive reads when he's stepping forward. So imagine him in the middle of the back line, and in this game, Cologne are sort of playing, and they're breaking through into the midfield. Banks, when he sees his man get the ball, he sprints forward and is often a little bit reckless. Whether he gets turned and commits a yellow card foul in the center circle during an Augsburg press in this game in the 47th minute. This is the thing that he needs to improve. I think it is the single thing, his defensive decision-making and knowing when to go and when to stay. And maybe it's positioning to know, hey, I'm going to have to go close down 8 yards, so let me start 2 yards closer so I can actually get there in time and try to actually make a challenge and not just get turned and have to commit a card foul. That, for me, is the biggest hole in Banks' game right now. But, man, he continues to look more and more polished. He made relatively few mistakes in this game across the board. I can see why he's playing the Germany card a little bit right now, and we'll get on to that later. He was awesome in this game.
Playing the Germany card. That's the phrase. That's interesting. I won't deflect from that, though. Taylor, thoughts on Noahkai Banks? Doing great?
I would like him to play for the United States. And I think Joe has outlined the benefits and weaknesses to his game. It kind of had passed me by that he is still eligible to play for Germany or is in their plans at all. And now suddenly the whole situation and the lack of call-ups maybe make a little bit more sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's like he's just really good, man. Like, he is really, really good. And Germany, I think, are smart to be interested. I mean, it was Pochettino who came out and said, like, hey, this guy could end up being one of the best center backs in the world or one of the best young players. I don't know. I don't remember what he said. It was hyperbolic. Maybe it wasn't, though. Maybe it wasn't hyperbolic. And it's not like Banks is the finished product now. And I do still get a little bit nervy about him playing minutes for the U.S. should he be at the World Cup. But, yeah, this Germany stuff is warranted, I think.
This is not a real suggestion, more of like a half-baked suggestion, but is this the downside to having Pochettino as the manager? That if, like, Greg Berhalter or Bob Bradley says, like, he's going to be one of the best center backs in the world, everyone's like, okay, sure, Swansea manager. And then when Mauricio Pochettino says it, Germany's like, wait, what? Okay, well, now he's ours. You can't have him anymore. This is all Pochettino's fault, is I think what I'm getting at.
Germany about to buy a lot of lemons.
Yeah. He's driving up
trade
those,
deal.
Transfer deals, yeah.
Lemon futures go through the roof.
Taylor, do you have a player you'd like to nominate who did good over the weekend?
Yeah, I have a few players I am concerned about, so I'm not going to focus on them. Jedi Robinson looking in your direction. Instead, I will praise the top of the championship. Aiden Morris and Middlesbrough get another win. They stay second, but it's Haji Wright who I think deserves the most praise. I know Graham is down on him, has been down on him, never much of a Haji Wright stan, but I nobly persist. Haji Wright has 5 goals in his last 4 games. He gets another one this weekend in a win over Stoke City. That keeps Coventry City at the top of the table in the championship. Feels very likely that they will end up in the Premier League next season if things continue as they have been. And he is integral for them. He can play out wide. He can play up top, as he does for the United States. And just seems like a very calm veteran presence in the attack, which is not always something that championship teams are going to have. And so to have him there, he feels like a player who will be there for them in the championship, but is someone who will continue to get looks next season if and when they are in the Premier League. He won't be one of those who I think is immediately sold to another championship team at the end of the season. At least I hope not, because I think he has earned at least a little bit of a run out in the Premier League, and I think Coventry City are well on their way to doing the same. So credit to him, credit to his club, and more of the same going forward, please.
Excellent stuff. Graham.
So I'm going to cheat a little bit because I haven't chosen someone from the weekend, as is customary. I have chosen a performance from yesterday, from last night. A performance for Atletico Madrid against Barcelona. I'm consistent, if not anything else. Johnny Cardoso, who was part of an Atleti team that got pretty handily beaten 3-0 last night in the semi-finals of the Copa del Rey. And yet, I came out of the match feeling quite good about what Johnny is and why I personally still feel he should be part of the roster for the World Cup. So the important context I have left out thus far is that Atleti had a 4-0 lead from the first leg. It's a 2-legged semi-final in the Copa del Rey. And so Simeone set up his team for the second leg to defend and to not lose 4-0. There was a meme going around before this game where he was asked about how do you plan on stopping Barcelona's or how do you plan on stopping them tearing apart your defence and getting them behind your line? And his quote back was, "Well, we're not going to attack," which I think gave you an idea. I mean, there's more words than that, but that's essentially the gist of the strategy for this game. And so this became a really useful road test for my theory with Johnny in relation to the US national team, because we all know that Johnny is a long way from being the complete midfielder. We know what he isn't, and that's a natural ball progressor. He's never had that skill set. But my logic with Johnny is that I would still quite like him as an option in a game where you want to shut up shop. Maybe you have a 1-0 lead against a high-level opponent in a knockout game, and you need that protection in front of the defence. And that's exactly what this task was for Johnny in this game. Now, there were some rough moments. For a lot of the match, that was pretty rough for Atleti, and it looked like they might actually lose this game 4-0 or even more. Barcelona were completely dominant, and anytime Barca quickened up the play, I personally felt Johnny was struggling to keep up, and there were some instances where I felt like he was hanging on for dear life in this game. And against the Barcelona press as well, he was a bit slow, and Atleti just couldn't get any kind of passing rhythm going for the majority of the match. And obviously that wasn't solely on Johnny Cardoso, but he was certainly part of those struggles. But then, just as I was ready to accept defeat on the little experiment I was running in my head watching this game, it went 3-0 to Barca, and the situation got real for Atleti. And this is the scenario I was thinking about for the USMNT. You can't afford to concede another goal. You're throwing yourself in front of everything. It's just a backs-to-the-wall job to get through the last 10-15 minutes. And that's when Johnny became an interception machine on the edge of his own box. Nobody made more interceptions on the pitch the whole game than Johnny Cardoso. 3 of them came in the final 10 minutes when, as I say, Atleti had their backs to the wall. Only David Hanko and Pubil made more clearances. He was dribbled past only twice, Johnny Cardoso, which, considering the task, the fact that Barcelona had like 75% of the ball and it's Lamine Yamal and Rafinha and everything, I think that was a success to be only being dribbled past twice. And Atleti ultimately got over the line in no small part in the final 10 minutes because of Johnny the Destroyer. So I just have a clear idea now of what Johnny is. We obviously haven't seen him integrated into the USMNT, which is like the concerning thing. We've never seen him do this for the national team. But I very much feel like, and I understand the criticisms of Johnny. He's not the midfielder we want him to be when you think of someone starting for Atletico Madrid. But nonetheless, I still think he has some value, and I am holding on to some stock after this game, which is funny to say because Atleti got thumped in this match. But nonetheless, for this task, I thought he was decent.
Graham, Oh, go ahead, Taylor.
I was going to... So really quickly, what is your 15-second elevator pitch on Johnny then? If you understand him, if you get him now, how would you describe him?
Somehow the US end up ahead against a top-level opponent in a knockout game at the World Cup. You just need to get through to the end of that game full-time. Johnny's your guy to help make that happen.
Did it in 10. What a pro. I mean, just shaved off a third of the time allotment. That's impressive. My question for you is, did Johnny have any real part to play in the fact that Atleti were getting clapped in this game prior to the final 15 minutes? No, I didn't watch this game.
Yeah.
Game of two halves, right?
That's what I'm saying. In terms of Atleti just could not get out. Yeah, absolutely. Johnny was slow. He was struggling to build any kind of rhythm, and that's where if you are a team that wants to have the ball, he's just not your guy. But in a scenario where you just need to protect something for 10 minutes, so he was really good.
Your takeaway from this game is, I'm being serious, and I think there is something to this idea. Your takeaway from this game is just don't have Johnny Cardoso on the field for the first 75 minutes.
Yeah.
And then when you're protecting a lead in a World Cup knockout game, you put him on the field. I mean, it's a decent argument, Graham. It really is. If you're in a situation with Cardoso where he doesn't need to pass the ball in a way that is serious, then I'm much more open to the idea of him seeing minutes for the U.S. I just wonder, and I don't think I have a good sense of this. Is Cardoso's defensive ability really that much better than an Aiden Morris, or than I don't know? Probably is better than Christian Roldan. I don't know. That's the thing that sways me a bit because he just really has not shown an ability to move the rock, and I understand that you're not disagreeing with that. But then the question is, well, is it worth having him as a sort of defensive specialist when Tyler Adams is kind of already a defensive specialist on a roster where you just need players that can actually do stuff?
Yeah. Totally. So I'm not arguing that he should be starting over
Agreed.
Tyler Adams for those qualities. I'm arguing maybe you want another Tyler Adams alongside the real Tyler Adams, and maybe Aiden Morris is up to that level. But the fact is, I've never seen Aiden Morris have to defend for his life in the final 15 minutes of a knockout game against Barcelona at Camp Nou. And I have seen that from Johnny Cardoso, where in that specific phase of the game, he was really, really useful. And you'll find Atleti fans, I read a blog kind of picking apart their performance, and they were glowing about Johnny in the final 15 minutes, where he did more than basically anyone. He actually did a couple of times, kind of started a counter-attack. He had a little bit of space. He didn't have to play through a tight area or anything like that. But yeah, I thought there was enough in those 15 minutes to go, okay, yeah, there might be a role for him in this roster, but it's never going to be as a starter.
A counter-attack, you say, Graham? That wasn't part of the plan.
I know. Simeone was furious.
If you are Atleti, you've got a 4-0 lead from the first leg, and it's 3-0 to Barcelona at half-time. That's a tense second half, isn't it? So
I didn't think they were going to do it. I thought, oh man, they have messed this up horribly. But they did, and Johnny played a role.
Did indeed. Well done. Very good. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Weston McKennie staying in Turin a bit longer. We're going to talk about that and much more. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to USMNT Weekly. Big news coming out of Italy, Graham. Weston McKennie has himself a new Juventus contract. We were saying before we started recording, he's been there 6 years. He joined in 2020. It's hard to believe. Time has flown. Many positions have been played. Many parking spots have moved, etc., and so on. But now he's on a contract extension until 2030. Very well earned, Graham.
Yeah, well deserved, and I'm delighted for Weston because he has been doubted at every turn. As a Juventus player by fans, pundits, maybe even myself at times, and his own club as well, who have tried to, as you kind of referenced there, Ryan, have tried to push him out the door more than once by removing his parking privileges. And instead, McKennie has dug his heels in, and he's become a better player for doing that, and he's in the form of his life at the moment, as we have consistently talked about. In 2026, he's got 6 goal contributions in his last 8 games, and he has become a real driving force for Juventus, who, in my opinion, are finally heading in the right direction under Spalletti. I know results recently haven't been great, but I've watched a whole bunch of them, and certainly in an attacking sense, they are definitely making progress. So it's a good time to be at Juventus, certainly better times than previously. Spalletti seems to love McKennie. He's one of the first names on the team sheet. And when you see McKennie playing in this way, I just hope all of this transitions into McKennie having a really strong World Cup, because we don't totally know where he fits in for the national team. That's like the big question mark. Now that his club future is resolved now with this new contract, I think this is the remaining question against Weston McKennie. He has barely played for Pochettino recently, or at least in the last few games. I don't know if we'll ever get the full story, but it's my opinion that something happened between Poch and McKennie last year. It might not be serious, but I don't think they were fully seeing eye to eye. So we don't fully know where he'll slot into this team. I think the consensus is we think Poch sees him as like more of an attacking, one of the dual number 10s.
That's what we've seen a bit more of, yeah.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter there is that's where competition is stiffest than perhaps any other area of the USMNT pool at the moment. So, the good news is that Weston, as he's proven, can play anywhere. I don't know if Poch believes that. And if we get the Weston of the last couple of months at the World Cup, that is something that I believe really could move the needle. Yeah. So all very positive.
Yeah, I mean, the Weston McKennie of it all, I think, in the March window for the U.S. is the most interesting story. I mean, I'm sort of, and Banks, I suppose, right? And we'll get onto that in just a minute. It is really those two, both of our topics for this segment. When it comes to the on-field tactical stuff, I think McKennie's utilization is the thing I'm most interested in by far, because it feels like there's increasing clarity about what Pochettino wants to do and which players are going to be involved, right? It sure feels like we're going to see Raymond Richards until Tim Ream turns to dust and Pochettino goes away.
Which might be happening,
It's possible. Let's just hope Gabriel Peck doesn't show up at the World Cup, I guess. He won't. But, I mean, I think there are a lot of clear things that Poch has landed on, and McKennie's positioning is just the big one that we don't know about. And I am pretty firm in I think he should be in the double pivot camp. But every time he plays as a striker for Juve, it looks really good. I feel like I look sillier. So maybe it just doesn't matter where McKennie plays, but it is a huge question. This is a big money move for McKennie. I mean, ESPN, Jeff Carlisle reported that McKennie's deal is guaranteed for 4 years at $7 million a year after taxes. That's legit money for him. That he gets stability is something that has been so rare for Weston McKennie. And I love the ongoing bromance between McKennie and Spalletti. I don't know. I enjoy that quite a lot. Feels like maybe they're just doing it so that Ryan can rhyme their names in some introduction sometime. But McKennie had this quote about Spalletti earlier in the year. Quote, "Spalletti is unique as I have never in my career worked with a coach like this. He's so good, works with the team spirit. I'm really happy, and I think everyone here is happy to be working with him." And then Spalletti said of McKennie, "He's an incredible guy. He always wins a personal duel with his opponent. You can can put him in multiple positions, and his skill allows us to change the formation in this period. He has all the qualities to do well anywhere. I think he means anywhere on the field, but it's looking more and more like he means anywhere on the planet because McKennie has been that good. I just love, and I think this fit has been so good for McKennie with Spalletti. I love that Spalletti seems to view McKennie's versatility and maybe a little bit of his like jack of all trades, master of noneness, although I think that's a bit unfair to McKennie. I think he views that as an asset, like as a thing that really can be built around instead of a thing that you end up tacking on at the last minute and it's inconvenient because he's not a player that you can write in pen in any single spot. Although I think he is that. I think he's good enough at this stage that you could legitimately play him in central midfield every game and expect to do really well as a team in a good competition. But I think Spalletti is maybe the first club coach who's really gotten McKennie. And part of that's because McKennie has legitimately improved, right? I'm not going to pretend like I was always a Weston McKennie believer. I didn't know that he would hit these heights. Thought he'd be a U.S. national teamer until he retired. But the dude has become so much better in possession and so much more focused and motivated out of possession as well. He deserves this deal, and I'm stoked that he got it.
Yeah, Spalletti, when he was at Napoli, gave that famous quote about football being, or as he views it, football being positionless, as he called it. Well, boy, do Juve have the player for you. It's maybe not a surprise that that he's struck it up so well and so instantly with McKennie, who just plays everywhere. I'm hoping we'll see him in goal at some point to complete the who scored graph of his career that they've got going on.
It's crazy because he's played as a left back a bunch recently for Juventus, and just nothing about McKennie to me screams left back. He's not super fast. He's not like wildly agile galloping up the sideline. He's not left-footed, first of all. Like he doesn't overlap whatsoever. And Juve haven't played with a really high and wide winger on that left side. And it still works, man. Like he still puts in good performances in that spot. It is probably the position on the field that I would legitimately put him in last, either left back or probably left winger. But it's worked, and I think he deserves a ton of credit for that.
I think McKennie is like the player in my mind that embodies the American player stereotype of like, what do you need? Sure, I'll go do it. Like, I don't think there's a ton of ego there, and probably that some of that is because of the way he's been treated at Juve. There is an idea of like, if I'm in the team, I'm in the team, and that's what matters. And so with that, I think is probably a willingness to just go work and do what's asked of him and be that left back, left wing, right wing, defensive midfield, central midfield, attacking midfield, forward, all of which he has played for Juve. I think he'll do it and do his best. And I think with that, there is probably like a little bit of a rational confidence at times that you also need if you want someone to play at that level in myriad positions and do it well. And I think Spalletti seems to have responded to that and appreciated that. I also think, and maybe I'm giving too much credit to Spalletti because I like him so much, but I also think that appreciation for McKennie factors into this new deal because it does seem like they were willing to wait as long as they possibly could. I mean, at this point, he could have begun negotiating with other clubs, right? He only has 6 months left on his deal. So at that point, you can go look around and see what else is out there. And I kind of wonder if Spalletti is maybe the one to be like, no, this guy needs to stay. He's part of my plans. If you want me here, he needs to be here. And so Juve then go out and get that deal done and make it happen and make him pretty well compensated. And for McKennie, I think it's deserved because he's done all that he's done. He's stuck around when people didn't think he would. And this is now his fifth permanent manager at Juve, I want to say, because it's Pirlo, then it's Allegri again, then Thiago Motta, then Igor Tudor, now Luciano Spalletti. There's probably an interim manager or two in there at some point. So that he has kind of found a way through all that and ended up in maybe the best position he could be in at Juve is a credit to him.
Yeah, definitely so. Taylor, was it Monday's show where you posited your theory that Juve would win the Scudetto next season, hence, ergo,
yes.
Therefore, we will have a Serie A champion on our hands in Weston McKennie?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. But yes, that is what I'm saying. And yes, we will. A lot of that is my appreciation for and love for Luciano Spalletti, which sometimes is justified and sometimes is not. But it just also feels like maybe they are starting to like round into some semblance of order. Now, some of that is injury like induced, but I feel like if they get rid of a few more players, Vlahovic looking in your direction, who make a ton of money, who aren't really performing, and kind of come back as a leaner machine with fewer expectations around them next season, I think that's exactly where they want to be to punch above their weight and take some people by surprise.
Joe, one more thing on McKennie. Do we talk enough about his throw-ins and his
How
giant
illegal they are, you
throw-ins?
mean?
And how much of an asset they might be for the US team as well?
We probably don't, although Taylor and I do correctly. I was going to say joke. It's not even a joke. It's real. We just laugh about it because it's funny. We talk all the time about how McKennie's throw-ins are illegal. I think it comes up on literally every U.S. show where he throws the ball in. It's wild that just nobody cares enough to blow the whistle.
They're
on
also
that.
surprised. The commentators are always like, how is he doing this? And it's like, well, when you throw it with one arm,
Yeah, he
that's
basically
how.
just has it to the side of his head, so it's his right hand that is like you would throw a football, right? Like it's most of the work is coming from that side. Yeah, it's awesome. I don't think we talk about it a lot because everybody's doing it now, but McKennie is really good at it, and it could be something for the U.S. I would legitimately rather have Weston McKennie throwing the ball into the box from the corner flag than Christian Pulisic hitting the ball with his foot from the corner flag for the U.S. That's how I feel about this. So yes, Ryan, we should talk about it more.
No disagreements. Joe's grace.
Wow. There we go. Okay.
It's going to clear the first defender.
Yeah.
The throw-in will.
Yep.
He'd be an Arsenal player before we know it, throwing him in to the box. There we go. Noahkai Bank and his alleged flirtations with Germany. Graham raising his eyebrows on that one. What do we make of this one? As we sort of covered earlier in the show, we weren't necessarily aware that this was something that was on the cards, but it could make sense.
Could make sense because it seems like Noahkai Bank is improving all the time, and I wasn't able to watch the full match of his performance against, was it Cologne at the weekend for Augsburg, but I did see the highlights and all the moments that Joe kind of outlined in the first segment of this episode. So not really surprising. Germany are also kind of in a bit of a generational transition, so they're not the Germany of old. So I'd imagine that they'd be casting the net wide, and if there's an 18-year-old starting regular games in the Bundesliga, then they'll be aware of that player and they'll be talking to that player. Just to provide the quotes from Noahkai Bank, I believe this was to Sky Sports in Germany. So, quote, even though playing at a World Cup is a dream, I don't want to make my decision dependent on a World Cup. I feel connected to both nations. It's a difficult decision regarding my nationality. I'm very torn. I'm in contact with both the USA and Germany and both national coaches. As I say, I don't think any of that is surprising, but to hear it from the player himself still makes your stomach drop to hear it. And I'm now at the point where I think it would be a huge letdown if Banks isn't in the roster for the March friendlies. And not just because the US should want some sort of allegiance from him as a young player for like future cycles. I feel like over the last couple of weeks, the discussion around Banks, and it's maybe related to Tim Ream, and maybe this is a knee-jerk reaction from the weekend, how poor Tim Ream looked against the Galaxy. Can I feel that like the discussion has shifted a little bit? So yes, previously I was always of the opinion it would be good to have Banks' allegiance for the next cycle. I kind of wonder if it's shifted to now he should be part of this cycle. He should be part of at least the roster for the World Cup for this tournament. So regardless of what the framing is, the US should want Noahkai Bank and his future tied to the US national team and not the Germany national team. And it feels like they might have a little bit of a fight on their hands. Or this is Noahkai Bank saying to the US and Pochettino, call me up for March, otherwise I'm going to look elsewhere. And that's actually what he wants. I don't know.
Can I suggest that, like, as I was trying to say, I think in the introduction, like, I see this as a sort of clarifying comment from him on how things have been going. And maybe I'm totally wrong, but my speculation is that he has been called up before and denied the call up because he doesn't want to be, not that a friendly would have made him bound to the United States, it wouldn't have, but I almost wonder if he has been having conversations with the U.S. and has been non-committal, and this is him kind of putting that in writing. I mean, he's more or less saying, I've been told I will be at the World Cup, and I'm weighing that against the longevity of my career and how many World Cups I could be at with Germany. That's more or less what I'm seeing from this comment, and to me that says there have been conversations, there have been maybe discussions around a call-up, and maybe he has been the one who's been a little bit uncertain if he wants to commit, if he wants to kind of make that obligation to go play for the United States. Maybe I'm entirely wrong, but that was my first reaction to reading that quote.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you're wrong, Taylor. First of all, I'm just stoked that we have a dual national panic, right? It's been a little while.
It's been a while.
Pepe, is Pepe the last real one? I was trying to think about who that would have been.
Balogun. Was Balogun
Balogun. Yeah, Balogun was after.
Pepe,
Yeah, that's
this
a good
Richie
one.
Ledesma slander and Guti
said
slander
panic.
will not stand.
I said panic, Taylor. I still one of my all-time favorite memories, truly, of like soccer is Taylor when you and Daryl recorded the Emergency Dest Has Picked the U.S. podcast. I don't think I'll ever forget that, man. Like that was I don't know, makes me happy still to this day. It's been a minute since we've had one quite like this because Banks is that level of a player. This whole thing I think is fascinating because it was not on my bingo card either. not because I don't think that Banks is good enough at some point to play for Germany, but because he said a few weeks ago, quote, "There's not a thought of switching," unquote, in referring to Germany. So that I don't know
Germany is what he meant.
yeah, right. I don't know what this looks like. So I mean, Banks born in Hawaii. His dad, I believe, is American. His mother is Spanish and German. So
we don't need Spain getting involved as well.
Yeah, dude, look at this guy pass the ball and don't tell me that he couldn't at some point play for Spain. So we just don't know what's going to happen here. I think really my action plan for the U.S. would be to bring him to the World Cup. Right, and surely there's a little bit of posturing here, right? Like, I don't think Banks, he's a young guy, but I'm sure he's being advised on kind of what to say in these kind of situations. You bring him to the World Cup, even if you don't think he's ready to play, and I'm not sure he's not. Like, watching Mark McKenzie and Ream and Miles Robinson and whoever else, you can't convince me that Banks is worse than those players right now, even if he has some defensive shortcomings still in his game. Those players are not perfect either. Otherwise, we'd be talking about them a lot more on these episodes every week. I think you bring him to the World Cup, and it's unfortunate for whichever one of the center backs that you were going to bring that gets left out, whether that is McKenzie or Trusty or CCV or Zimmerman, whoever, right? Robinson, run through the list. It's unfortunate, but even if you're bringing Banks and you don't think he's ready for the spotlight, you bring him and you put him on the field for 3 minutes in a game and you move on. And that's how you get him locked in. I mean, it feels like he should be prioritized, even if you think he's roughly equivalent in level to these other players, because he's got potential. And that's how this stuff should work, as unfortunate as it is for some of those other players. And I also think he just might be ready to play.
The pool is nowhere near strong enough to completely discount what someone as promising as Noahkai Banks is saying about another nation getting to him first. Like, that should be concerning. Like, I know the US can't make knee-jerk reactions in picking its World Cup roster. But it's not like we're talking about... Yeah, exactly. Like, if we were talking about a number 10 here and it was someone who was starting for Augsburg and they were getting their start, you'd go, right, okay, but, who are you leaving out of the number 10 group that can actually make an impact for the US at the tournament? If it's Miles Robinson, for example, sorry to pick on you, Miles, but if it's Miles Robinson who gets left at home, is that a player that we're going to, at the end of the tournament, go, oh man, if we just brought Miles Robinson instead of Noahkai Banks, things might have been different? No, the pool is nowhere near strong enough. So I do kind of feel like the discussion is shifting a little bit. As I say, having watched Ream run through Treacle against the Galaxy on Sunday, it might even have shifted from, is this guy going to the World Cup, to is this guy starting at the World Cup? I think he looks really promising.
And the problem with what you're talking about, Graham, and what I've been talking about is as the U.S. should bring him to the World Cup, and maybe this won't be a problem because Poch rates him and he's going to call him up in a week and things are going to be great. But maybe this is a little bit of a problem with having Pochettino as your coach of the national team. What is Pochettino's incentive to do what we're talking about? His incentive only is to do well, right, at the World Cup, and after that he's going to ride off into the sunset. And so if he doesn't think Banks is ready to help him do well now and doesn't want to bring another young player or whatever it is, right, there could be all sorts of reasons, even though I think we would all disagree with them. It's possible that he won't bring Banks to the World Cup. If that's Greg Berhalter or honestly any American coach that feels some sort of allegiance to the U.S. men's national team and to the sport in America, I think they're sacrificing, if they view it as a sacrifice based off of ability, they're sacrificing the 0.5% now to help their predecessor because they believe in the program and they're going to get the young player in the door. I mean, I guess Klinsmann brought Julian Green, so maybe this example all comes crashing down, but I don't think you get quite that same investment in the future that you may or may not need in this case, but you may from Pochettino. And that's a little bit of a concern, but ultimately I think Poch knows ball and is going to call in a good player. So it should be fine.
Yeah, Klinsmann got Julian Green to commit from Bayern Munich connections and then by guaranteeing him a spot on the roster, which I'm guessing is a tougher thing for Pochettino to come out and be like, you're definitely going to be there, guy who I haven't actually watched play very much. It feels to me, Joe, to your point, a very astute one. That like if it were Berhalter there, I think there is going to be a much firmer pitch and a much more like selling him on why the U.S. is a team to play for, why the vibes are great, why it's a fun thing to do, why it's a great team to play for. I think you're totally right that with Pochettino, it's probably less of that and more of a like, hey, come or don't. It'll be fine. Like I can see entirely how he would try to get him on board because having talent is good, but isn't going to kind of see that bigger picture. And I also wonder if an American coach in this present moment might be more inclined to kind of talk about the awkwardness of representing the United States on a global stage in this present moment. And Pochettino, by contrast, might not care, as we saw with like the Tim Weah comments. Maybe he wants that entirely removed from the locker room. But I think there's an argument in there about represent the U.S., kind of show what we are as a population of mixed backgrounds and different people coming together to represent the U.S. and play for the country. Like, I think there is a pitch in there that tends to resonate with dual nationals, and I just wonder if that is a thing that is being made as aggressively because Pochettino doesn't need to, nor do I demand that he do so. But it's an interesting one because I would very much like him to play for the United States, but I also get that he's been in Germany since at least he was 9 or 10, and that's where he's played his club ball. That's where he's developed, and I can't really begrudge him if Germany, with all of their World Cup victories, comes along and say, hey, we might be interested in you. I feel like that would turn your head. I get how that would happen. I just hope that there is someone doing some persuading arguments on the other side.
The other side of it, Taylor, is that, yes, that's Germany you could go and play for, but if you play for the US, you have the potential to play a lot more, potentially. In 6 or 7 years' time, you could be a first name on the team sheet, whereas that might not necessarily be the case for Germany. That's the sell, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, and the person who should be making that that sell are either of the Tillman brothers, who did this exact same thing, and we're both we want to see and keep our options open, and now here we are. I think I get where that mentality would come from of maybe Germany will call me up, and maybe I can impress, and maybe I become a Germany regular. But I also think there's as many examples of Germany having lots and lots of talent, and maybe those players not ending up making it through, and ultimately either coming back to the United States or being cap tied to Germany and not being able to do so. Final point on this, and where I thought Joe was going to go, or final point for me at least, and where I thought Joe was going to go with the Serginho Dest point is we also had the Jonathan Gonzalez emergency podcast when he chose Mexico, and now he was going to be the central cog in the U.S. midfield for years to come, and now he will be that for Mexico, and how much stronger will they be? I think he still plays professional soccer. I'm not
San Jose
entirely
Earthquakes,
sure.
baby. He's got Jonah on the back of his shirt now.
Wow. So, nothing is proven, nothing is set in stone. You never know quite how these things are going to play out. Banks does seem like a player that has a long career ahead of him and has already developed leaps and bounds. But who is the German, Japanese, American international?
Henry Chase.
There you go. Who I was last season, gotta get him in there too. And here we are. Things change very quickly.
Taylor's right. What I will say is, and this is either a panic-inspiring thing or an encouraging thing for the U.S., I think Banks' chance of getting 60 caps for Germany is higher than him doing a Jonathan Gonzalez. All those outcomes are possible, but Banks is legit in the way that, and tested at a level that Gonzalez still has never been and never will be at this rate. I think Banks, the problem with what you let in Taylor with, Ryan, about, he'd be able to play more with the U.S., that's true, right? There's no doubt about that. But he might be able to play a lot for Germany. I wouldn't close the door on that, and if I was advising Banks, I would not advise him to close the door on believing that either. So I think this is going to come down to maybe other stuff, or
not at the
I
Gold
don't know.
Cup, though, Joe.
Murky. What's up?
Yeah, but that's the other side of the sales pitch is, playing at the World Cup's nice. Do you want to win it? Right. That's the Germany pitch. Yeah. If he's as good as a lot of people think.
And let's not pretend like playing for Germany doesn't do more for your career than playing for the U.S., right? Obviously it does. So there's a whole lot of factors to consider. I don't know how high Germany rate him. I'm not intimately familiar with the German center back pool right now. We will be ahead of the World Cup. Graham probably already is, and he's having to hold his tongue because I'm sounding like a fool. But it's something to monitor. I think this is going to turn out okay for the U.S. I really do. But that is pure speculation and hope and nothing else.
All right. We take a quick break now. When we come back, we're looking to MLS and the young US players who are impressing us at the moment. And, of course, we have your scouting reports to come. Join us then. Total Soccer Show. Welcome back to USMNT Weekly, in which we take a look at Major League Soccer and the young American players who are, to paraphrase Shania Twain, impressing us much. Graham Ruthven, who you got?
So this has been a big storyline of the first 2 weekends of the MLS season, right? The number of young players who have made a big impression. And I don't want to be too knee-jerk, but it has made me think that for all the justifiable discussion about the youth soccer landscape in the US, I think the pipeline of MLS Next Pro to MLS might actually be working rather well with the number of players that we're now seeing emerging. And obviously some teams are better at playing their kids than others. I see Matt Doyle complaining about Charlotte, Ryan, on a regular basis. But yeah, I feel quite good about the number of homegrown players coming through at the moment.
Can I, Graham,
in particular,
can I drop a stat just to really reinforce that
Sure.
point? So MLS Communications put this out on, I don't know, sometime recently after the weekend. A total of 29 teenagers appeared across the league this past weekend, which is tied for the most in a single weekend in MLS history. And that group played 1,456 minutes across the 29 of them, which is the most ever by a group of teenagers in MLS history. Wow. I don't know if it's a blip or if it's the start of something more, but that completely underscores your point. This is stuff that seems to be moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's not just that players are getting those minutes. It seems to be like quality players. So you can see the technical ability of none more so than when you watch Adrid Mehmeti for the New York Red Bulls or whatever we're calling them these days. And it's difficult when you watch Mehmeti not to get carried away. So he's only 16. This is his first senior season and he's played just 2 games, right? That's all important qualification. Now I've got all that stuff out of the way, I'm going to rev up the hype train because at the same time, you know, when you watch Mehmeti, he's the unicorn. He's the sort of player, or one of the players, that American soccer has been waiting for, with his natural ability on the ball, the way that he can get on the turn. Obviously, the US has Tyler Adams in that position at the base of the midfield. And, you know, Tyler Adams has some elite level qualities, hence why he's playing at a good level for Bournemouth in the Premier League. But he's not an elite level ball progressor, right? He never has been, and it's very unlikely that he ever will be at this stage of his career. Mehmeti has that natural ability. He reads the game well. There's been some moments in the Red Bulls' first 2 matches when he's got stuck in and he's made a block or whatever, and his defensive positioning has been good. But it's the moments when he receives the ball, gets turned quickly and plays forward, and he makes it look so easy. And let me tell you, it's not easy, because the number of players who can do that, particularly at 16 years old, is minuscule. That's the exciting stuff, because those players are difficult to find, and that's one of the players that the US has notably been lacking and is still lacking. So I'm already thinking about what the next step is for him, because there will be big clubs in Europe looking at him, undoubtedly, no doubt about that. And I'm torn on what I want for him right now, because from a selfish point of view, I've only just learned what an Adrid Mehmeti is, and I want to see more of him in MLS this season. At the same time, if this kid is as good as I suspect he might be, and he's this good at 16, and if the US wants to have genuine superstars in the year to come, go now. Go to the Premier League, go to the La Liga, go to one of these big clubs that will sign you up, and yeah, they'll stick you in their youth academy, but hopefully you're playing first team football by 18 or 19. That's the gamble for someone like Adrid Mehmeti, but I really think, having watched him in the first 2 games, he's a superstar in the making.
Graham, can I follow up on that and ask you, you watch more soccer in more countries than just about anybody on the planet, right? So you have a global perspective that I just don't. You've watched a lot of young players play. Like, how do you think about Mehmeti, not just in the context of the U.S., but in the context of all these countries that you're watching on a regular basis? Where does he fit in that ranking of high young players? You don't have to actually rank them, but where on that scale is he? You know,
I mean, obviously it's difficult to quantify the level of MLS compared to other leagues, but making account for that, I think he's one of the best 16-year-olds in world football. I mean, he has to be. I saw Matt Doyle comparing him to Marc Bernal, which is, Bernal's playing regular football for Barcelona, and Bernal also has a little bit of, Bernal will end up in the box for Barcelona and end up on the end of crosses and will actually affect games in that way. So I don't think it's a perfect comparison, but I can see what Doyle is getting at in the way that he turns, the way he finds space. You watch Mehmeti or you watch Bernal or some of these La Masia kids, and you're like, why can't every player just find space in the centre of the field and play the ball forward? It looks so simple what he's doing, but the fact that no one else is doing it proves that it's not. And so watching him just come straight in from Next Pro into MLS as a key central pillar, and it's not just him, it's Julian Hall as well, but I feel like Mehmeti, for his profile, is the one that I go, he's the guy who can really move the needle for the US. I'm so impressed with him that I'm actually a little bit sad that it's so close to this World Cup, because if he's got a year under his belt, you're maybe thinking of him as taking a place on the roster. It's obviously too early for that, but yeah, he's right up there. Surely Barcelona and your cities, and if City are going for Kevin Sullivan,
they know who he is. Yeah.
They know who Adrid Mehmeti is, and so I absolutely think he's either on Kevin Sullivan's level or he's higher than Kevin Sullivan, what he's doing.
First of all, what I just heard was Graham advocate for a Winter World Cup, so that's written in stone. Second of all, I want to push back on this. Graham, so you're saying leave a club where you are playing minutes already, getting starts, getting meaningful minutes, and go play in an academy where they are very likely to loan you out and sell you to clubs where you don't quite fit. Isn't that what City does every single time? Isn't that what all those clubs are going to do?
Except for the really good ones.
Except for the ones who are Phil Foden, or the ones who break through and are a first-team figure at Man City at the age of 18 or 19. That's what I'm saying. That's where I'm torn. Obviously, yes, the fact he's getting first-team exposure in MLS has been very good for him in the early part of this season. But the true superstars are playing for the top clubs by the time they're 21. And so if you want to do that, you kind of make the move like in the next 18 months. So I suspect that might actually happen if the big clubs are interested.
It's a possibility. As far as I understand it, he has an Albanian passport, dual national panic part 2. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. And so I believe he can move whenever, right? As long as he's registered within a transfer window. So I think the door is open for him to do that sort of thing. I have no clue what the future holds for Mehmeti. Graham, I am equally bullish on him. And I think usually I'm quite what maybe some people think of as pessimistic, but I think, as every pessimist does, quite realistic about the prospects of U.S. players. I don't think I've seen a U.S. player, bar Gio Reyna, who is good enough to like actually play games for Manchester City. Obviously, the Gio Reyna thing didn't work out, and that ship has sailed in that way. Mehmeti is the next one. I mean, maybe Kevin Sullivan, who I think has been really quite good in his limited minutes for the Union so far this year, but he's just a horrible fit for the style of play that Bradley Cornell wants to play, and it doesn't seem like Cornell trusts him, and so he's not really playing very much. But Mehmeti is a guy that I think is good enough to maybe do it. At least, I don't know if he will. I don't know if he actually is globally good enough to do it and go and actually break in at a top club. Sure. But he's the best chance the U.S. have had since I started doing this job. So that's a piece of this.
Yeah, there's so many things that can take down a young player and ensure that they don't make the breakthrough. Like a manager doesn't fancy, or a change in a style of play, or just a badly timed injury, or whatever. So this is not me saying Mehmeti goes to Barcelona or Man City, he's a superstar by the time he's 21. But he's got a chance, is what I'm saying. And he looks really good.
And sorry, I know we've gone really long on this. I apologize because I feel as passionate about this as Graham does. I went through earlier this week and pulled some numbers from American Soccer Analysis because I was trying to figure out, okay, it looks like Michael Bradley's committed to playing the kids almost regardless. Is it because he just wants to do that, or that's a directive from the top down? Or is it because these kids are actually good enough to have earned minutes on the field in Major League Soccer? And the tape told me they're good enough, right? Not just Mehmeti, but Julian Hall and Matty Dos Santos, all three of the Red Bulls teenagers that have been starting games for them this year. And the data says the exact same thing. So I looked at American Soccer Analysis, a goals added metric, and looked at defensive midfielders who have started both games so far this year. Mehmeti is 5th in MLS in that particular stat. The players he's behind, Rodrigo de Paul, Jeppe Tverskov, Sebastian Peralta, and Jose Cifuentes. The players he's above, Christian Roldan, Cole Bassett, Steven Eustachio, and Mark Delgado. That's a pretty good list to be in the middle of. And it's 2 games, of course. And there are holes in Mehmeti's game. Yes, there are. But the dude is good enough to be playing games. It's not like he's just being handed these opportunities. He's earned them.
Very good stuff. Who wants to go next? Taylor, would you like to nominate a young player from MLS?
Yeah, I'm going to cheat here a little bit because we've talked about teenagers. I'm going the other direction. When we're talking about relative youngsters who could be in the U.S. team for the upcoming World Cup, I'm talking Sebastian Berhalter, baby. Not quite what we intended, but I'm going for it anyway. Berhalter. Joe just mentioned him.
Sorry,
yeah, baby.
Me doing the Thomas Miller.
Berhalter. I love that. Did he say he's always late as well?
What does that even mean? I'm like he was supposed to do the video bomb before. Like, did they plan it?
Or like, does he mean like get on the end of a cross once or twice, man? like I don't know. Or showing up to training late. Who knows? He is certainly showing up though. They've played 4 games now this season. Vancouver, 2 in the league, 2 in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I think Berhalter has played all but 4 minutes. He comes out at the very end of their 3-0 win over Toronto when things are very much wrapped up. He's just the engine in that midfield for Vancouver. He is consistent. He is reliable. And the kind of, like, not just the Muller video, but not just the Muller video. Like, the vibes are there, and there's chemistry there, and it feels like he is in a very strong, very comfortable position ahead of the World Cup. Others are ahead of him, certainly, when it comes to the midfield. But I think for where he is and what he's doing, I think he continues to kind of stake a claim as being one of those depth sort of squad options. Similar, I mean, Max Arfsten is ahead of him, I think, in the depth chart in their respective positions, but it's a similar thing of, like, keep doing what you're doing, and I don't see how, like, it hurts your stock, you know? So I think thus far it's been a really strong start to the season for him, obviously for Vancouver, and I think it's just positive signs for Sebastian Berhalter.
Yeah. Taylor, I think when you're picking fringe figures, fringe players for a World Cup, vibes are actually part of it. And Berhalter, I totally agree. Like, from a competitive standpoint, when we've seen him on the pitch and like backing up teammates, and the Thomas Muller video, and I know that's a different team, but he just seems to bring a lot of positivity to a camp. And I always remember Steve Clark after the last Euros. I don't know whether we should base anything on how Steve Clark picks a squad. But
I
he was
always
asked
do.
about Liam
Every
Kelly,
time.
the third choice goalkeeper he called up for Scotland. He was asked what was it that Liam Kelly had over the other options, and Steve Clark went, well, he picks the music in the dressing room. And I think he was joking, but I also don't think he was totally joking. So yeah, I think those things are that they are taken into consideration. Helps if you can also play some soccer, which Sebastian Berhalter can.
Good stuff. Joe, would you like to nominate someone?
I would love to. Honorable mention to Ian James at Sporting Kansas City, who I think is going to be a young center back we talk about a lot more over the next couple of years for the next cycle. And Snyder Brunel, who's been impressing me for Seattle. I think he's going to be starting games for them before too long. Xavier Gozo, stockholders,
Yes.
pat yourselves on the back. Gozo looked really good against Seattle Sounders in that 2-1 win. We talked about that game, Taylor, yesterday with Jeff, but Gozo in particular, to look at him for just a second, he's continued to be shoehorned into the right wing back role because Pablo Mastroeni just wants to get him on the field, even though it's not like the best fit for him. I think it says something about a young player when a coach is finding a way to get them in the team, especially at a young age. Minutes played by young players is probably one of the best indicators of future success. And Gozo's getting minutes because his coach believes in him. And you watch the tape and it's really clear why. Man, on the first goal that RSL score in this game, Gozo's final ball is a little messy, but he knifes past like a hot knife through liquid butter, not just warm butter. It's already melted. He knifes past Nuhu, who's pretty good 1v1 defender, Christian Roldan, and Paul Rothrock, who are like three pretty industrious guys all the way across the board. He completely eliminates them from the play. The final ball that he plays is not very good, and then RSL pick it up, and then they score from there. But Gozo's ball progression from that spot, his ability to just carve right through you on the dribble was real in this game, and then the assist he gets is the world's easiest assist because he's just faster than you, runs in behind, gets on the ball, and squares it like a sweaty goal in FIFA. Gozo is so athletic. His athleticism is above this level. And I don't know about you guys. This weirdly had me thinking about the Club World Cup, watching Gozo in this game. The thing that stood out to me in the Club World Cup when I saw Chelsea play LAFC or some of these big European teams against the MLS teams wasn't necessarily the lack of on-ball skill, but it was the lack of athleticism, man. We talked about the Premier League getting more and more physical. These athletes at the top of the game are just that. They're incredible athletes. And we talk all the time about, can the U.S. get more guys who can do the Mehmeti stuff? And that they need players who can do the on-ball, savvy, through-ball, chance creation things. They also just need athletes that can compete with the best in the world in this sport. Like, think about the winger. When you think of a winger, you're thinking of someone who is physically aggressive, who can go and knife past you 1v1, who is going to be faster than you, can turn the edge on you and get to the end line and play the cross in. Gozo is a guy who can do that. And the U.S. just has zero of those players. So he's looked good. He's looked better in possession than the MLS level. Defensively, he's just not a wingback, so I don't think we really need to worry about that so much. But it looks like he is developing into a winger and a kind of player that the U.S. very much needs. He's been really, really good.
I love that for that assist, Joe, he still has the presence of mind to take the touch before. I know this is maybe like low bar stuff, but I think a lot of players would have rushed to play that pass, and by taking the touch, he just gives himself that little bit extra time to make sure that it's the right execution. I also love that he's playing right wing back just because you've got to get him on the field.
Yeah.
He's that good. And Andrew Wiebe, who was doing the broadcast from Salt Lake City, of the game against Seattle the weekend, was saying like the coaching staff, when he was on the same touchline, are basically just like instructing him through every moment like a puppet. Like, come back a little bit, move forward a little bit. So I don't know how familiar he is with that role, but the fact that he's still able to impact games like he did against Seattle says a lot.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much, gents. One thing left to do on this episode, that is to dip into our TSS scouting reports, the reports that you guys have sent in via our Patreon. Who'd like to start? Taylor would like to start. Go ahead, Taylor.
I would love to start. Thank you so much, Ryan. This report comes from Dustin Sullivan scouting Matthew Dos Santos, 17-year-old left back for Red Bull New York, who Graham wants to shove into an academy in England and forget about. Dos Santos played 65 minutes starting at left back against the New England Revolution this past weekend. He had a quiet first 45 minutes, winning 0 out of 5 duels. Excellent. And 1 out of 2 aerial duels. In the second half, Red Bulls played with a bit more spark and purpose. Dos Santos was the angle change off a short corner in the 53rd minute. Does that mean he was the short option who then crossed the ball in?
I love that expression. Yeah, that is what it means, and I've never heard that before, but I'm going to use it.
There we go. I'm glad, Joe. There we go. He put in a good cross to Mehmeti, who got the assist on a Julian Hall goal to open the scoring. All in all, Dos Santos shows a lot of promise going forward, but still has some room to grow in the defensive phases of the game.
Totally. I think that's spot on. Dos Santos looks like a really, really good on-ball player at left back, but he just looks like a 17-year-old defensively, right? So he's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the strongest guy. Maybe you don't need to be playing fullback, but you probably need to be more of those things than he is right now. So good young player, though.
Very good. Joe, do you have a nomination? And is it someone we've spoken about perhaps before
Couldn't
on
be.
this episode?
Couldn't be Adrid Mehmeti. This is coming from Ed Ritter, 16-year-old central defensive midfielder for the Red Bulls. I want to state in advance, I do not co-sign some elements of the scouting report, but Ed is still a legend. Here we go. Mehmeti started and went the full 90 in a 1-0 victory. He had a lackluster first half, but in the 53rd minute, he flicked on a cross from a short corner that was headed home, the same winning goal combination as last week. He was 71 for 82 in passing, including a lovely scooped pass into the box. Fatmob gave him an 8.3, tied for the best on the field, and he was once again in the MLS Team of the Week, though that did not match my observations. Still a solid overall performance. Thanks.
Was that some FOTMob slander, Joe?
I'm not co-signing FOTMob ratings in my scouting reports. You're welcome to send them in. I'm just gonna
It doesn't sound like Ed is either, to be fair. It seems like Ed is also maybe
that's a good
uncertain
point.
of that one.
Okay, Ed, I take that pause back. My fault. The other two pauses I stand by. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sean.
So Graham, just so we understand, your job at FootMob is to make the fairly inaccurate formation graphics before each game. Is that right?
No, it's the ratings. It's like figure skating, you know. I just go 8.
Got
And they
it.
just ask me a player, and I hold up
That's
the
what
sign.
it feels like. That's what it feels like.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. Keep going, Graham. Very good. Jesse Frankel has sent in this scouting report for Hennedy Sinchuk, right winger at CF Montreal. The good, says Jesse, is that Sinchuk started, played the whole game, and drew a red card. Starting at what the internet claims was right wing in a supposed 4-2-3-1, Sinchuk put in a good effort to try and help Montreal work the ball upfield. The bad, though, Jesse says, everything else, though truly not his fault. I noted, said Jesse, the formation above because at times he seemed to be a 6 in the back line, at one point in the right middle position of a front 4. The commentators were confused as well, as they more than once claimed that Sinchuk received the ball when it was a different player with blonde hair. Ooh. Oddly, the game seemed to get further away from them after going up a man. So a mixed day for Sinchuk and the commentary team, it seems.
It's a rough day out there for anybody attached to CF Montreal. Sinchuk is like a decent, I think, Ukrainian prospect, but Montreal are just a complete mess. I need everybody to know this now. I have pulled up on my phone and in Google Chrome the letter that CF Montreal's ownership wrote to their fans last summer promising change, and I'm just waiting for the right time to just dunk on them because they are an embarrassment. It's so unfortunate. But Sinchuk, keep doing your thing, young one.
Ooh. Spicy today, Joe. I like this. Keep it up. Very good. Graham, do you have a scouting report for us, please?
I do indeed. So Juno has been in touch with a report on Pia Vlok, a 17-year-old midfielder for Wellington Phoenix Women in the A-League. They play in New Zealand, of course. So Juno says, Pia Vlok joined the Wellington Phoenix Women at the start of the 25-26 A-League season, signing a 3-year contract, the first 2 of which are on scholarship terms. She has made 12 appearances so far this season, scored 5 goals, including a hat-trick against the Newcastle Jets at the beginning of February. And then Juno also says, in the Phoenix game on February 20th, she showed her composure on the dribble to get in position to provide the assist on Wellington's late-game equaliser against the Melbourne victory. Vlok has also received her first call-up to the Football Ferns senior team, great nickname for the New Zealand women's national team, for the first round of OFC World Cup qualifiers in March, which I think New Zealand would very much expect to be at that tournament. So yeah, Pia Vlok, maybe someone we'll see at the Women's World Cup next year.
Excellent stuff. New Zealand teams being in the A-League in the Australian setup, it's a wild sort of away trip. It's well over 1,000 miles from Australia, I think, New Zealand. And if you're playing in Western Australia, that's a beast of a away day.
Yeah, there's also another complication. I've written about this for the newsletter where, what is it again? The New Zealand teams who play in the A-League can't compete in the continental Asian competitions, but also can't compete in the Oceania continental competition. So if they win I think this came up from Auckland FC. Remember that team, the expansion team in the A-League in the men's game, winning the A-League last year? They didn't have anywhere to go. They don't have a continental competition to qualify for. So that's a little bit weird.
Oh dear. There we go. Thank you very much for those scouting reports. Keep them coming at patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. But that is USMNT Weekly. Taylor Rockwell. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, buddy, to you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Gelati.
Hey, I didn't like what just happened, but this show was fun. Buddy.
Why not, buddy?
Oh, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
Hey.
I'm not going to do that.
Bachwan.
Well, Joe, I'm glad we squeezed an extra little bit of spice out of you just at the end of the episode. There. Very
Yeah.
good indeed. Graham Ruthven, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
And listener, thank you the mostest for joining us on this one. We'll be on the feed very shortly, but for now, bye.